Yeah, hello everyone. This is the continuation video. This is the video number 4, nuclear chemistry, part 4. So, in this video, we are going to discuss theory of radioactive disintegration, particularly how disintegration takes place, what are the primary effects, what are the consequences, what are the secondary effects, and the consequences of secondary effects, and also the brief discussion on a radioactive series. Artificial radioactive series and the natural radioactive series that will be the end of nuclear chemistry for JEE. So, firstly, let us take a theory of radioactive disintegration. Theory of radioactive disintegration. So, it was proposed by the scientist Rutherford and Soddy in the year 1903, and basically, it is a nucleus phenomena. This disintegration is related to the nucleus. This disintegration is related to the nucleus. So that is the reason we are using the word that is nucleus phenomena. Nucleus phenomena. And let us take some important postulates, some important points like that. So here they stated that nucleus of radioactive element. Radioactive. So the element which shows radioactivity. So the nucleus of radioactive element is unstable and disintegrates at any moment. For example, if you take a carbon 614, carbon 614 is radioactive element, and this radioactive element is unstable. So because of this reason, the nucleus of carbon 14 disintegrates at any moment. So the nucleus of radioactive element is unstable and it will undergo disintegration. And already in the last video, we discussed if neutron proton ratio N by P ratio is greater than required value, Newton proton ratio is less than required value, how disintegration takes place. In the previous video, we discussed, and here also they are saying the same. If it is radioactive, the nucleus is unstable. Since it is unstable, it will undergo disintegration at any moment. And disintegration is a spontaneous process, it takes place on its own. For example, if you take carbon 14, carbon 614, it undergoes a disintegration on its own. It shows beta emission. By showing beta emission, it will be converted to nitrogen at 714, which is a stable nuclide. And this is a spontaneous phenomena. It takes place on its own, and it is not affected by external factors like temperature, pressure, catalyst, and all. Already we discussed radioactivity, activity, and what is that? Rate of chemical reaction. Rate of chemical reaction is affected by external factors, but this is a nucleus phenomena. Definitely, it is an intrinsic property. As a result, simply we can say it is not affected by external factors like temperature, pressure, and also it is a spontaneous phenomenon. And the next one, let us take another important point. Disintegration takes place. Yes. Why disintegration is taking place? Disintegration takes place to get the stability. In generally chemical bonding also, you learned that. So why chemical reactions are taking place? Chemical reactions take place, chemical bonding takes place to get the stability. To get the stability. Here also disintegration takes place to get the stability. So less stable nucleus will be converted to more stable nucleus. To get the stability, disintegration takes place. And very clear, when disintegration takes place, one nuclide is converted to another nuclide. For example, same thing carbon 614 you're talking about, carbon 614, or it can be anything radioactive. When it shows radioactivity, when it undergoes disintegration, that is converted to nitrogen 714, and it shows radioactivity by which emission? Beta emission. Beta emission. Now you can see during disintegration, carbon nuclide, carbon nuclide is converted to which nuclide? Nitrogen nuclide. So during disintegration, nucleus of one element is converted to nucleus of another element, and here carbon nucleide is converted to nitrogen nucleide. And generally, nuclear reactions we balance with respect to charge and mass. Already we discussed, and the general representation, if you take this is a symbol of the parent nucleide, this is the atomic number charge of the nucleide, and this is the mass of the sorry mass of the nucleide, and this is the daughter nucleide. Symbol Y is the symbol of the daughter nucleide, and this is the charge, and this is the mass. And whatever the particle emitted in this, that is generally called a ejectile. It may be alpha particle, beta particle. Sometimes it may be alpha beta emission followed by gamma, and due to the gamma emission, so there is no change in the nucleide. We'll discuss all those things, primary effects and secondary effects. And disintegration, how disintegration takes place. Disintegration takes place in two different ways. Mode of disintegration, if you take, there are two different ways. One is primary effect, and another one is a secondary effect. So mode of disintegration, mainly mode of disintegration is classified into two types. Altogether there are five types, but mainly they're broadly classified into two types. One is primary effect. So primary effect, what are the examples coming under primary effect? We have alpha emission, beta emission, both alpha and beta emission. So what will happen when alpha emission takes place? When alpha emission takes place, what will happen due to alpha emission, and what is the consequence due to alpha emission? 3 points we need to answer, and the fourth point, how many alpha particles are emitted? In each alpha emission, beta emission, what we need to discuss? We need to discuss 4 points. When does alpha emission take place? When does alpha emission take place? And due to alpha emission, what is the consequence? And how to find the number of what do we call alpha particles emitted. But of course, alpha emission, when does alpha emission take place? Already we discussed. So here in N by P ratio, but here what we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss. So here, if alpha emission takes place, what is the consequence? What is the relation between daughter nucleide and parent nucleide? And a simple mathematical equation, by using that, we can find the number of alpha particles emitted. So beta emission, next one, that is both alpha and beta emission takes place sometimes. And the secondary effects, in fact, these secondary effects alone do not occur. So primary effects, after completion of primary effect, sometimes, so these are followed by, primary effects are followed by secondary effects. So under secondary effects, we have what we call a gamma emission. The next one is conversion process. So basically, what's the exact difference? Primary effect and secondary effect. What is the exact difference? Due to a primary effect, either alpha emission or beta emission, there is a change in the nucleide. The composition of the nucleide will be changed. But in case of secondary effect, there is no change. Only the excited nucleus with the high energy will be converted to nucleus with low energy, but there is no change in the composition of the nucleus. We'll discuss that. So first, let us take primary effects. In this primary effects, let us start our discussion with the alpha emission. So everybody knows alpha particle. Alpha particle is helium-24, dipositive ion of helium, right? Alpha particle is dipositive ion of helium. So ejectile is helium-24, right? So alpha particle emission we are talking about. So product side, you are writing along with the product nucleide, you are writing helium-24, helium-24. That means I already told you, this is the symbol of parent nucleide. This is what do we call its charge of the parent nucleide, and here it is the mass of the parent nucleide. And while writing daughter nucleide in alpha emission, you can see alpha particle, that is helium-24, dipositive ion of helium. So the charge of this daughter nucleide will be 2 units less when compared to parent nucleide, because already told you how to balance the nuclear reaction in the introduction video. So when parent nucleide is converted to daughter nucleide in alpha emission, the charge of the daughter nucleide will be 2 units less. Why 2 units less means? along with this daughter nucleide, the charge of the parent nucleide is also shared by ejectile. Ejectile is alpha particle, and the mass of this daughter nucleide will be 4 units less. Charge is 2 units less, mass is 4 units less, and you can see in alpha emission, in the emission of each alpha particle, if it is emission of one alpha particle, if it is emission of x number of alpha particles, obviously 2x charge will be decreased, 4x mass will be decreased. So in each alpha particle emission, z decreases by 2 units, mass number a decreases by how many units? 4 units. Charge decreases by 2 units, mass decreases by how many units? 4 units. And you can see instead of taking one alpha particle, you can see this is a nuclear reaction. Alpha emission is taking place. This is p stands for parent nucleide, charge of the parent nucleide, mass of the parent nucleide. D stands for daughter nucleide, charge of the daughter nucleide, mass of the daughter nucleide. And you can see along with this, you're also getting x number of alpha particles. And you know, while balancing nuclear reactions, we see that left hand side charges, right hand side charges are same. Left hand side masses, right hand side masses are same. So based on that, simply we can write mass of the product nucleide AP is equal to mass of the daughter nucleide plus 4x, because x number of alpha particles we are taking. In this discussion, x is what? Number of alpha particles emitted. Similarly, uh, charge of parent nucleide is Zp, and this charge is equal to sum of the charges of daughter nucleides, and all ejectiles are all alpha particles. And what is the daughter nucleide here? Zd. Charge is Zd. And how many alpha particles? X. What is the charge of each alpha particle? 2. So Zp is equal to Zd plus 2x. And this equation is correct only when alpha particles are emitted. Sometimes both alpha and beta may emit in a sequence of reactions. Alpha particles and beta particles may be emitted. In that sequential reaction, we need to calculate the total number of alpha and beta particles emitted. So we need to find that, and that is the third case we discuss. And from this, if you want to find the number of alpha particles, once again I'm telling, this is true only when alpha particles are emitted alone. When alpha particles are emitted alone. Of course, it may be correct every time, but here there are some changes we discuss. Sometimes if both alpha and beta particles are emitted, this relation we need to modify, and how to modify in third case we'll discuss. And x is equal to AP minus AD by 4. So x is number of alpha particles emitted. And here also x is equal to Zp minus Zd by 2. And here x is number of alpha particles emitted only if alpha emission takes place. And most importantly, in alpha emission, what is the relation between parent nucleide and daughter nucleides? So 100% you can check parent nucleide and daughter nucleides are said to be isodiaphers. So what is the meaning of isodiaphers? Isodiaphers means so the species which have same isotopic number. Species which have same isotopic number. Only for the sake of explanation, this is clearly telling, this is only for the sake of explanation, because I'm not saying that calcium 2040 undergoes alpha emission. I'm not saying that. Please listen carefully. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Only for the sake of explanation I'm taking. For example, if I take a calcium 2040, if it undergoes, if I'm imposing the condition, if it undergoes alpha emission, obviously right side we have to say helium-24. Please listen carefully. I'm imposing the condition, but calcium 2040 is stable. It does not undergo what we call alpha emission. If it undergoes, because I just wanted to prove that in alpha emission, the relation between parent nucleide and daughter nucleide. What is the relation we are trying to identify? And 20, already 2 is there. So obviously this is argon, that is 18. So here 18 plus 220. And this is 40. Here we already have. So let me take 36. In fact, argon 1836 is unstable. But I told you Before giving this example, clearly I told you in reality calcium 2040 does not undergo alpha emission because it is already stable. But the only thing we are studying one example to understand what do we call in alpha emission. What is the relation between parent nucleide and the daughter nucleide? And here, what is the isodiaphoric pair? So isodiaphers means the species, the nucleides which have same isotopic number. How to find the isotopic number means that is A minus 2Z. A minus 2Z are simply neutrons number minus protons number. However, it may be the same relation you'll be getting. Neutrons number minus proton number. So 40 minus 2 into 20, 0. Isotopic number is 0. And 36 minus 2 into 18. So that is also 0. Isotopic numbers are same. Atomic numbers are different. Mass numbers are different. If isotopic number is the same, then the relation they are said to be isodiaphers. So, but in alpha emission, you can verify the options. We cannot remember all these things. But here, if only alpha emission takes place, definitely there will be some relation between the parent nucleide and daughter nucleide, and the parent and the daughter nucleides are said to be isodiaphers. Right. This is about alpha emission. Mode of disintegration we are discussing. Under that, the primary effects we are discussing. And in the emission of each beta particle, in the emission of each beta particle. So here, what is the identity of beta particle? In the first video itself, we discussed. So this is the carbon 614. Carbon 614 is unstable. Since it is unstable, in fact, its N by P ratio is more. It will always try to decrease the N by P ratio. And in that process, so it shows activity by beta emission. Hence, it is called which emission? Beta emission, beta activity, right? And you know, in nuclear reactions, we need to balance only the charges and masses. Don't worry about the symbols, right? Stop worrying about the symbols. Only thing is, we need to balance the charges. So here, left side we have charge 6, but right side we have charge -1. In order to equate these two, I need to take 7. 7 is the charge possessed by nitrogen. So I'm taking N. Now it is nitrogen. And the left side you have what do we call mass 14, but beta particle mass is 0. And obviously here I'll be taking this is 14. But beta particle mass is exactly, it's not 0, but that is negligible. That is negligible. So very, very less, that is negligible mass. And here you can see carbon 614, carbon 614, when it shows beta emission, that is converted to nitrogen 714. And during this conversion, if you see, the mass of daughter parent nucleide and daughter nucleide, the masses of parent nucleide and daughter nucleides are same. That means mass number is same, but the atomic number is different. You already know the nucleides having different atomic numbers, but same mass numbers. So mass numbers are same. In fact, they are called isobars. That's why here, in case of beta emission, the relation between parent nucleide and daughter nucleide, if you observe, they are isobars. And you can see whenever a nucleide emits beta particle, so what is actually happening if you observe? So atomic number increases by 1 unit. Atomic number increases by 1 unit. You can see, but there is no change in the mass number. There is no change in the mass number. So, so there is no point to take a mass number into consideration only if beta emission takes place. If you take mass number into consideration, you cannot find how many beta particles are emitted because mass number remains the same. So let us calculate how many beta particles are emitted in this case, type 2. If radioactivity is shown by beta emission, and how many beta particles are emitted if you want to know, very clear if this is only if beta emission takes place, because sometimes both alpha and beta particles are emitted in sequential reactions. So the reaction is taking place in a sequence. First alpha emission, again alpha emission, beta emission, again alpha emission, beta, beta, like that. So sequence of reactions. There are various reactions taking place in a sequence. In that sequential reaction, if you want to know how many alpha and beta particles are emitted in total, you need to know about the type 3, both alpha and beta emission. So here, very clear, this is the parent nucleide and this is the daughter nucleide, and this y number of beta particles are emitted. And I told you mass number is not affected, and the atomic number or charge, if you take, that is Zp is equal to Zd minus y. So here, and our intention is finding y, where y is number of beta particles and y is equal to Zd minus Zp. So what is Zd here? Charge of the daughter nucleide, and P is the charge of the parent nucleide. And this is a very simple case. And the third one, emission of both alpha and beta particles. It doesn't mean that in a step, directly in a step, it may not occur alpha and beta both, but particularly in a sequential reactions. So for example, this is parent nucleide. So this is the D1, this is D2, this is D3. Like this, in a sequence, the reaction is taking place. Here, alpha particle is emitted. Here, beta particle is emitted. Again, alpha particle is emitted. Like that, the reaction is taking place in a sequence. In this situation, the overall reaction, if you want to know the number of alpha and beta particles emitted, so emission of both alpha and beta particles, if you take, so this is the parent nucleide, starting nucleide. After sequence of reactions, after several reactions, we are getting this daughter nucleide with the emission of x number of alpha particles and y number of beta particles, with the emission of x number of alpha particles and y number of beta particles. And very clear. And here there are two unknowns. We need to get to two equations. We will get to two equations also. There are two unknowns. One is x, another one is y. We need to find x and y, and we need to get to two equations, and it is possible to get also. Yes, it is possible to get. How means, one is with respect to mass, one equation is with respect to mass, another equation is with respect to charge. Now let us take first with respect to charge. So here, the charge of the parent nucleide is equal to sum of the charges of all species present right hand side of the reaction. So here, daughter nucleide, what is the charge? Zd. What is alpha particle charge? 2x. What is beta particle charge? -5. And very clear, this is equation 1. And there are two unknowns. 100% Zp and Zd will be given in the question. And we need to find x and y. And there are two unknowns. We need to get one more equation. We can easily get another equation by taking masses into consideration. Already told you, due to the emission of beta particle, with respect to beta particle, there will be no change in the mass. But here the mass is getting affected. That is because of alpha particles. So very simple. AP is equal to AD plus 4x, right? And this x is equal to AP minus AD by 4. Now x value we got, and put this x value here. But once again, I'm telling, it is not to by heart. Don't by heart all these things. Just know it. Nobody can remember these formulae, but simple use the logic. So take x number of alpha particles, y number of beta particles, write the equations and solve. That is the best thing you can do while solving the questions. And frequently they're asking these kind of questions, particularly either what do we call decay constant related problems, carbon dating are here. They're asking frequently. And Zp is equal to this equation. X value I'm putting here. The value of X I'm putting, whatever the value I got, I'm putting here. So Zp is equal to Zd. And in fact, it is 2x. And here this is 2x. So that is in the denominator we have 4. That is clear, of course. AP minus AD by 2 minus y. And what is y? Number of beta particles emitted. And if you want x, you can use this, or simply you can, after getting y, you can use this. It is up to you. And most importantly, in this, if one alpha particle and two beta particles are emitted, if one alpha particle and two beta particles are emitted, then the resulting nucleus possess the same atomic number, but mass number is 4 units less. Hence, they are isotopes. Once again, and the calcium 2040 I'm taking. Please understand, I'm not saying that calcium 2040 undergoes alpha emission. Only to explain this point I'm taking. Once again, I'm telling if, but definitely calcium 2040 does not undergo alpha emission. But I just wanted to prove one simple point, that is argon, what do you call 1836. This is emission of which particle? Alpha particle. So let me write minus alpha, right? So one alpha particle and two beta particles. So here two beta particles minus beta. So here minus beta. So minus beta particle means, so what happened due to the beta particle emission, atomic number increases by 1 unit. Atomic number increases by 1 unit means it becomes potassium 19. Mass number there is no change, so that is 36 only. And one more beta particle we are taking. So you know, due to beta emission, atomic number increases by 1 unit, charge increases by 1 unit. Now the charge again it becomes 20, but the mass number if you observe, so that is the calcium, so 2036. 2036. Now I'm talking about calcium 2040 and calcium 2036. They have same Z value but different A values. Hence they are said to be isotopes. Once again, I'm telling calcium 2040 as such, it does not undergo alpha emission. Only to explain this point, I have taken this example, right? And the next one, secondary effects. Secondary effects. We have two examples of secondary effects. That is, one is gamma emission and another one is, as I told you before, these two are secondary effects. This is internal conversion. One is gamma emission and another one is internal conversion. So basically, secondary effect means alpha emission, beta emission, primary effect. Sometimes it is followed by secondary effects, but I'm not saying that every time primary effect is followed by secondary. I'm not saying that. So after emission of an alpha particle or a beta particle, the nucleus is left behind in excited state sometimes. Excited state means it has high energy. Excited state means it has high energy. The excess energy is released in the form of gamma rays. Let us understand this. What does it mean? Gamma emission does not produce a new nuclide, I already told you, because the charge is zero, mass is zero, and there is no change in the composition wise, there is no change. But what is the difference? Why it is taking place? So gamma emission always takes place after alpha, beta, or both alpha and beta. Let us take for example, carbon 614 is unstable. It underwent beta emission, but whatever the nucleus you are getting nitrogen, here I have given star mark. That means still it has high energy. Its potential energy is more. That means it is in excited state. It is in excited state. But not only N by P ratio wise, even it should have what we call, let us say this is metastable, something like metastable. So this is ground state. One more thing is excited state. And somewhere it is between ground state and excited state. Its energy is high still. But composition wise, N by P ratio wise, it is okay. But its potential energy is still high. So what will happen? It has to get the stability. So it has to decrease the potential energy. That means it has to lose some energy in the, but without changing any composition, right? Without changing any composition. Because of emission of particle here, the composition should not be affected because N by P ratio is already it is stable. So what happened? It emits, it loses energy in the form of some radiation, that is gamma rays. So this is excited state is converted to ground state so that it becomes stable, right? And this is about gamma emission. And one more thing, that is internal conversion. It is also a secondary effect. What is this internal conversion? The very important phenomena. An excited nucleus like N star I have given in the previous example, some cases may return to ground state by giving up its excitation energy to one of the electrons around it. As a result, electron will be ejected. See here only, for example, excited nucleus is converted to ground state. It is coming to ground state. In that situation, some energy is given out. So what he's saying is, so let us take this is the atom. And when excited nucleus is reaching ground state, some energy will be released, and that energy, because of that energy, so what happened? The electron may come out from the atom. So here, an excited nucleus in some cases may return to its ground state by giving up its excitation energy to one of the electrons around it. So around the nucleus, there are electrons, and whatever the energy given out by the nucleus, that is absorbed by electron, and electron will come out. That means ionization will take place. Ionization of atom will take place. As a result, electron will be ejected. As a result, electron will be ejected. And what is the kinetic energy of the electron? See, for example, let us say this is binding energy. Let us say this is binding energy. And the total energy given out, by the nucleus, let us say that is E1. Energy given out, instead of E1, let us say En. Energy given by nucleus, energy released by nucleus. That will be utilized in two different ways actually. One is part of the energy will be utilized for breaking these attractive forces, that is binding energy. So let us take that is E binding energy, and the remaining energy will be converted to kinetic energy of the electron. That is converted to kinetic energy of the electron. For example, if nucleus is giving, let us say, only for the sake of explanation, 100 U units, energy units, 100 U. In that, for example, 70 units of energy is utilized for breaking these attractive forces. That is, in fact, converted to binding energy. Remaining 30 units, with the remaining 30 units, the energy will be traveling, and kinetic energy. And from this, very clear, kinetic energy of the electron. Kinetic energy of the electron is equal to energy emitted by the nucleus minus binding energy. Available excitation energy, energy emitted by the nucleus minus binding energy of ejected electron. And whatever the electron came out from the atom, that electron is called conversion electron. Do you remember this concept is somewhat related to photoelectric effect? When a light of sufficient energy falls on metal surface, from the surface, some electrons will be ejected, and the ejected electron is called which electron? Photoelectron. Photoelectron. And here the electron is called a conversion electron. Conversion electron, and this process is called conversion process. And finally, group displacement law. It's a very simple thing. Very simple thing. So according to this, when an alpha particle is emitted, I told you, due to the emission of alpha particle, atomic number decreases by 2 units. So the daughter nucleid has atomic number 2 units less than that of parent nucleid, right? And consequently, it is displaced two places to the left in the modern periodic table. Two places left in the modern periodic table. So atomic number decreases by 2 units. Atomic number decreases by 2 units means group number decreases by 2 units. That means it will be displaced left side in the modern periodic table by 2 units. But very clear, this is not valid in case of F block elements, because you know all F block elements, 14 lanthanoids and 14 actinoids, belong to the same group, that is third group. That is the longest group in the modern periodic table. So here that is having 32 elements. So here what I'm saying is that this particular point is not applicable in case of what we call F block elements. If a nuclide emits alpha particle, atomic number decreases by 2 units, Z is decreasing by 2 units, therefore it will be displaced left side. It will be moving to left side. The daughter nuclide I'm talking about. So the parent nuclide, consequently, it is displaced 2 places to the left in the modern periodic table. Very clear. And when beta particle is emitted, so the daughter nuclide has atomic number 1 unit more. I told you every time I cannot write carbon 614. When it shows beta activity, it is becoming nitrogen 714. So carbon nucleide is converted to nitrogen nucleide. Therefore, atomic number increases by 1 unit. Atomic number increases by 1 unit means that will be displaced right side in the modern periodic table, one place. And just a brief introduction. Uh, there is no question about on this particularly radioactive disintegration series. In fact, we have 4 radioactive disintegration series: 4n series, 4n plus 1 series, 4n plus 2 series, 4n plus 3 series, like this: 4n plus 1, 4n, 4n plus 1, 4n plus 2, 4n plus 3. But it is completely memory based. So here, this is the name of the series. This is the first element. This is the last element. And if you can remember the first element and second and last element in that series, you can easily find the number of alpha and beta particles. Similarly, 4n plus 1, Neptunium series, uranium series, actinium series. So here, starting nucleide and the last nucleide, number of alpha and beta particles emitted, and this is totally memory based. And most importantly, in this 4n, 4n plus 2, 4n plus 3 are natural series. So that disintegration is natural, but 4n plus 1, this one, 4n plus 1. So this is a artificial series. So that is artificial. And 4n, 4n plus 1, 4n plus 2, 4n plus 3, you just take a, what do we call a mass number of the starting nucleide. Here, what is the mass number? 232. 232. For example, if it is divided by 4, and you'll be getting the remainder 0, hence it is called 4n. For example, if you take the second series, the starting nucleide is Neptunium, and its mass number is 237. And if it is divided by 4, you'll be getting the remainder 1. Hence, it is 4n plus 1. Similarly, 4n plus 2, 4n plus 3, and already we discussed. So here, if beta is emitted, isobars. If alpha is emitted, isodiaphers. We discussed already. And if one alpha particle and 2 beta particles are emitted, so here that is the resulting nucleide relation with resulting nucleide will be isotopic relation. In fact, this is the end of nuclear chemistry, the 4-part series. And in fact, I confined everywhere for JEE. And being a faculty, I should guide the student properly. I don't want to discuss the unwanted things because we are not doing research here, and we are just preparing for JEE. And based on the syllabus given and based on the previous papers, the content we developed, and whatever the content I developed, I discussed, I shared my knowledge. Yeah, this is the end of nuclear chemistry. Thank you very much.